Hey guys, thanks for watching Weddings by Khaled. We are coming at you from my living room with another T&A tips and advice session. This one is what I consider one of the single most important elements in planning a wedding. It is choosing your venue. We're gonna talk about choosing venues. We're gonna break it all down for you. And not only that, we're gonna start kind of a series within a series called Venue Visits, where we're gonna take you along with us and we're gonna tour different venues all over the country. So stay tuned for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But today we're gonna kind of do a little precursor on choosing venues, because let me tell you something. You can't do anything else until you choose a venue. A venue is going to define the culture of your wedding, because you got your ballroom brides and you got your barn brides and you got your, it's totally going to be different. You can't choose a dress until you have a venue. You can't choose your decor until you have a venue. And once the venue is chosen, everything else in the wedding planning is going to be smooth sailing. So first, let's talk about the different styles of venues there are. Now, here again, one of the most overwhelming things in a wedding. There's so many different kinds of venues. So I know you may be a little bit indecisive, but kind of think about where you feel yourself. Are you an outdoorsy type? Are you more formal, urban, sophisticated, chic? Do you not like being cold? Do you not like being hot? Then you might want to make sure that you're indoors. If you're a little bit more of a risk taker, then by all means, go outdoors. But you know what? It gets even more detailed than that. So when we're outdoors, barns are really, really popular right now. That's one of the top styles of wedding venues that we're seeing. Estates, and of course, private homes. There's no reason why you can't do your wedding at your home. There's a lot that goes along with it, and we'll talk about it and break it down more when we get into private home weddings. But I think it is one of the most customized and beautiful experiences you can have if you have the property and the space to do a wedding at home is absolutely stunning. But if you don't want to take on that kind of responsibility and that kind of effort, there's lots of ways to do weddings outdoors. You can even be creative with your venues, especially with smaller weddings happening right now. I'm seeing a lot of weddings take place on mountaintops. I'm seeing weddings take place in parks, on rooftops of buildings, and those work out really well for the smaller weddings. And you've got the beautiful outdoors at your fingertips. There are plenty of historical estates, museums that have outdoor spaces where you can do ceremonies, where you can do receptions. And then of course, you've got your ballrooms and your more formal type indoor spaces. You have your hotel ballrooms, which are usually a little bit more traditional. And then you've got different, more edgier type of indoor spaces, like for instance, rooftop spaces that have indoor spaces to them, spaces inside of historical buildings. So first, kind of get a gauge on where you see yourself. And it's all about visualization and what you love and what you like to do. If you're someone that loves to go to museums, then by all means, you can have your wedding in a museum. That can be your venue. So choosing the style of venue you want first is what you need to get out of the way, get that checked off the list, and then you want to start doing your homework. Start looking at the venues that are out there, start calling up on the phone, making your appointments, and touring the venues. And this can be so much fun. And that's why we're gonna make a series in a series about it. We're gonna take you with us on tours. But when you go out there and do it yourself, you need to do a little bit of homework and a little bit of research before, and make sure you're asking all of the right questions, because every venue is completely unique. And you want to know exactly what you're getting with that venue. You want to know what their rules are. You want to know what their policies are. Depending on the venue, you might not be able to use the vendors that you want. You always want to ask about that. Make sure that they don't have specific restrictions on the vendors that you can use, on the times that you can use the venue, on the alcohol policies, on the noise ordinances in some cases. Sometimes they're all inclusive, other times they're not. Some include China, some don't. Some include places where you can get ready, some don't. The most important thing to remember, and I know you've heard this from me so many times, is don't make any assumptions, because every venue is different and they all have their own policies and rules and culture. So you want to make sure that you do your homework and know exactly what you're getting into when you choose a venue. But a lot of times I'll say, just like the dress, you know, when you get in it, you know it. You know, this is my venue. This is where I'm gonna do my wedding. And it's something that you just feel when you get there. So that's the fun part. That's what you wanna do first, and then all the questions come next. So once you're touring venues and you find some that you love, then that's when you wanna start asking questions. So obviously the first important question is, are you available? You probably have a date in mind, but you know what? You wanna make sure you wanna be a little bit flexible, because there may be better deals. You always want us to ask, is it cheaper to rent on a Friday or a Sunday? Hey, I've seen Thursday weddings if you really want to save money. I've seen Monday weddings. I mean, come on, who are we kidding? But make sure it's available. Second thing is what's included. Okay, stop making assumptions on this one, because every venue includes different things. And not just the things that are included, but the services that are included. So are tables and chairs included? Definitely don't just assume the tables and chairs are included, and ask to see what they look like. Because if you don't like them, that's another rental item. You're gonna have to rent other chairs, other tables, if they don't have what you like. A lot of people assume that the venue contact person is gonna be your wedding planner, or that they're gonna be your wedding day director. No, don't assume that, because you know what? It's not true. Unless they say that that is included, or they say it's this much extra to have that included, don't just assume that. They're not your wedding planner. So ask what services are included, ask what times the venue is available for. So a lot of times they may tell you the rental is, X amount of money, but that may only be for 4 hours. You can't do anything in 4 hours. You gotta have your getting ready time. You gotta think of the time that the vendors are getting into the venue. It's not just about you. Your caterer is gonna arrive there usually a few hours, couple of hours before everything starts, and then they have to have cleanup time at the end. So all of those hours have to be covered within your rental period. China, linens. No guys, these are not always included. Now I will tell you, a lot of times those are included in your hotel ballroom type scenarios. Not always ask, but in your more non-traditional venues, those items are usually not included. So remember, that's gonna be something that you're gonna have to rent, that you have to work into your budget. You can also talk to your caterer about that. And this may seem totally obvious, but bathrooms, there are some very kind of off the beaten path venues that you may fall in love with, wineries, whatever, and the area that where you're doing the wedding may not have bathroom facilities, and you may have to rent a potty trailer. So these are all questions that you need to ask when you're touring your venues. And then as far as services go, okay, so you know that the venue includes tables and chairs. Ask if they set them up and break them down for you. This is really big, and not all venues do. So this is something that you're gonna have to hire a company to set up and break down the tables and chairs, or you're gonna have to pick out some people from your crew to do that. And that's a pretty big responsibility and can take a lot of time. You're gonna have to have a room layout, and it's not just like, pull it out of the air. So that does take a lot of effort. So make sure that the venue does set up the tables and chairs for you. Ask if they do multiple events in one day. Another thing not to assume about. One of the things I always like to ask is, am I gonna see like 4 other brides walking by me? If you're a private person and you wanna have the venue all to yourself, you wanna know to that answer. So, that's something to ask. It's not always obvious that it's just gonna be you, especially with all of the rescheduling and everything going on right now. You may not be the only event going on at that venue on that day. Rain plan. I mean, in a perfect world, we have sunshiny days, but it could thunderstorm, it could hurricane, it could rain like crazy on your wedding day. Also, it might be like super hot or super cold. So if it's a venue that's got an outdoor location to it, where you have one of your events like your ceremony planned, you need to ask what their rain plan is. And I'm sure they have one, but all you gotta do is ask. In certain states, You want to ask what their alcohol restrictions are and their alcohol policy. Certain wineries will only let you have their wine. Actually, most of them will. Certain wineries won't let you have liquor on top of the wine and beer. So if that's important to you to have a full bar, something you want to ask about. And also if some venues might ask you to get a license so that you can serve alcohol, and that differs from state to state. So again, the venue manager is always going to be the one to ask and always have the answer to those questions. Some other things that you might not always think about is parking. Don't always just assume we can just pull up and park and walk in. So this is something you want to ask about: how close the parking is, how expensive the parking is. Sometimes there's going to be a fee for that. A lot of times there might not be enough parking areas available, so you will have to rent a bus or some type of transportation for all your guests to be brought to the venue in, and make sure that that vehicle can have direct access to the venue. Especially some of the more off the beaten path venues, buses can't always make it to the front door, in which case you may have some guests with mobility issues and you will have to rent golf carts on top of that. So these are just extra expenses that you need to ask the venue about. All right, guys, there are some questions to get you started on your venue tours, but wait until you come along with us. We are going to have you right there with us. We're gonna get down to the nitty-gritty. We're gonna walk through venues. We're gonna meet with venue managers, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Again, this is the first thing you gotta do. It's one of the most important parts of wedding planning. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe for fresh new content every single week and to help me realize my dreams.